Imagine the absolute peak of social discomfort. You're sitting in a crowded restaurant. A line of waiters is marching toward your table with a sparkler and a lopsided cake. Everyone is staring. Everyone is singing. And for 60 agonizing seconds, you have to sit there and perform gratitude while your soul slowly leaves your body. For some people, this is the highlight of their year. For others, it's a reason to treat their birthday like they are in the witness protection program. If you're the person who treats the anniversary of your birth like a standard boring Tuesday, your friends probably think you're being difficult. Your family thinks you're depressed. But there's a massive difference between being miserable and being birthday indifferent. You aren't weird, you're actually running a very sophisticated psychological defense script. Today, we're looking at why some people see a birthday not as a celebration, but as a trap. Let's start with the control problem. For 364 days of the year, you decide how your social life works, who you see, what you do, how much energy you spend. But the moment it's your birthday, that autonomy evaporates. Suddenly, you aren't the architect. You're the exhibit. Other people decide the restaurant. They pick the activity. They choose the vibe. And you're expected to sit there, smile, and be grateful for a party you never actually asked for. Psychologists who study internal locus of control find that people with high independence needs experience birthdays as a total loss of agency. You're forced into a passive role while everyone else directs the show. For someone who values autonomy, this isn't a gift, it's a job. They skip the day because celebrating on someone else's terms feels more exhausting than not celebrating at all. But for many, the issue is even more fundamental. They simply hate the spotlight. In psychology, this is linked to the spotlight effect, a cognitive bias where we overestimate how much others are noticing us. On a normal day, you can blend in. You're just a face in the crowd. But a birthday is a day-long, forced exposure. It's the social equivalent of being pushed onto a stage without a script. There is no correct way to behave while a dozen people stare at you and sing. And for someone who values privacy, that scrutiny feels like a threat. They treat the day like a normal day because normal means invisible. And invisible is where they feel safest. There's a second layer, though. Some people don't care about their birthday because they've learned that caring is a shortcut to disappointment. Think back to being 7 years old. You've spent weeks imagining the perfect day. The cake, the friends, the feeling of being special. And then reality happens. It rains. Someone cancels. The big gift lands flat. Our brains are prediction machines. We simulate how things should go, and when reality fails to match that simulation, the gap feels like a physical bruise. Over time, you develop strategic apathy. If you convince yourself the day doesn't matter, you can't be let down. It's not humility, it's risk management. They've learned that the only way to avoid the crash is to never leave the ground. By treating their birthday like a normal day, they're buying emotional insurance. They care just enough to protect themselves from caring too much. Then there's the self-worth angle, and this one is uncomfortable. Some people skip their birthday because deep down they don't think they deserve one. It's not a loud, obvious self-loathing. It's the quiet voice that says, I don't want to burden people by making them celebrate me. This often traces back to childhood attachment styles. If you grew up in an environment where your needs were treated as an inconvenience, you learn not to take up space. When your birthday comes, the idea of people making an effort for you feels wrong. It feels like a debt you can't pay back. Skipping the celebration isn't a choice. It's a reflex. If you don't ask for anything, you can't be disappointed when nobody shows up. But here's the plot twist. Some people ignore their birthday because they're actually the healthiest people in the room. People with stable self-worth don't need external validation to feel valued. They feel seen and appreciated on random Tuesdays. They don't carry a validation deficit that needs to be filled once a year with cake and attention. For them, birthdays are nice, but they aren't necessary. Meanwhile, for people who need their birthday to be a massive production, that can sometimes be compensation. They're trying to get in 24 hours what they're missing the other 364 days. The person who treats their birthday like a normal day isn't using a party as emotional first aid. And then there's the perfectionist trap. Some people avoid birthdays because they have an ideal version in their head. The perfect people, the perfect moment, the perfect feeling. Because reality is messy, they know it could never match the dream. So they do nothing. They protect the fantasy by never testing it. It's like having a masterpiece in your mind that you never write down, because once it's on paper, it can be flawed. They aren't indifferent, they're the opposite. They care so much that the potential for a mediocre birthday is too painful to risk. Finally, the existential layer. Birthdays are mortality markers. You're celebrating being 1 year closer to the end. Congratulations. Here's some cake. Most of the year, we're good at ignoring that. But birthdays force you to confront it. Another year gone. How much time is left? What have you even done? Some people celebrate harder as a response, proof they're still alive, but others cope through neutralization. If you treat the day as ordinary, it loses its power to remind you that time is finite. Subconsciously, skipping the milestone is a way to keep existential dread at arm's length. So, what's really happening when someone treats their birthday like a normal day? It could be about control, or protection, or a hatred of the spotlight, or maybe they're just genuinely content. They don't need a party to feel like they matter. Treating your birthday like a normal day isn't sad. It's not broken. It's a complex, valid way of navigating a psychological minefield. And maybe that's worth understanding.